Morning, beautiful. It's great to see you, and it's windy out here, but I want to show you the flowers because, well, I've got to show you the flowers. Here are the roses. I'll go inside once I finish showing you the flowers, but there's too much going on to miss out. So there it is. That's the iceberg. It's the best rose in the garden, probably because it's the toughest rose in the garden. Hi Mike, great to see you. And look at this crazy lily. It's a very vigorous take over the world species lily, and as you can tell, it's going to explode. It's just starting. And we have a single red rose, which I hope looks better on your camera than it does on mine, because my camera does not do reds or purples very well. But there you go. It's fabulous. Perfect red rose. Andrew, it's lovely to see you. Driving to work. Well, okay. Great to be in your ear. Keep your eye on the road, love. Heather, it's lovely to see you. Look at this. We have roses. I mean, this is what happens in December, particularly because it hasn't dried out here, and I'm so grateful. I sent a little message to Gaia and said, look, I'd love it if the things didn't dry out until halfway through January, because it can get very dry here and then nothing grows. Look at the fuchsia. Yes, it always drops its leaves because we get fungal infections here and they all fall off. But it flowers. This thing has been here longer than I have, and I've been here 30 years longer. So there you go. And look, the thalictrum is being fantastic. Waving in the wind, but you see I tied it up. The old rebar does really well. G'day, Holly. I'm pretty sure that's you. I'm still working out everyone's names. It's a memory test every day. It's lovely to see you. Yes, the rose needs deadheading, but look at the fresh flowers. They're always so irregular, but I love the colour, and the buds are so perfect. Come on, focus, please. Camera, sort it out. Here we go. I mean, look at that. There is just nothing missing. And in the background here, we have a great old wild foxglove, and you can get close and see the dots on the flowers. And it's just really lovely to share this with you. I always have one. Sometimes there's one in the back garden as well. And we have little miniature roses which are breathing a sigh of relief because they can actually see the sun. Oh, and look, there's coriander. Got to eat that. That's coriander in perfect condition to eat. Oh, and I didn't want you to miss this. Okay, got to go via this lily, which is amazing. It's just orange. It's gorgeous. But I want you to see these because they're all fresh and bright. See, this one's sunburned, right? It hasn't been very sunny in the last few days, so look at all these perfect unbleached blossoms. Yes, it's Holly, I've remembered. Whee! I'd love to get that right. There was a time in my life when I ran preschool music classes, and I could memorise in a matter of a day or, you know, the weekly thing, quite quickly, 20 preschoolers in around a circle to say their names, as long as they didn't move. As long as they stayed where they were for the session, I knew who was who. So I'm not quite as good as that now, but I still have some of it left. So there you go. The fantasticness of bright, fresh magenta. I mean, wow, really, look at that. That is a dahlia, and that's why I have them. I have to deadhead them. These ones are species dahlias. They will make lots of babies and take over the world. And look at that. But they're worth the effort because they're so bright. Here is the summer storm iris properly out. It is amazing. And the colour looks a lot better on this live screen than it did on the photograph I took. So I hope you can see that it's a beautiful royal purple. See how dark the buds are. And of course this I'm really delighted about because I thought I'd lost it. And look at the buds. There you go. Isn't it just gorgeous? This beautiful purple edge on it. I'm trying to get some focus for you. It's not happening. There's too much else that the camera's focusing on. There you go. So it gets a bit confused, but it's a fabulous thing. And yeah, you know, the flowers are aging, but there's one that's fresh. And it's just waving in the wind and being glorious. Camera's doing its best. There we go. So I just wanted you to see that because it's fabulous here. Something else that you always miss out on because it happens when everybody's away. Got another one of these sweetheart roses. Come on, camera, sort the focus out. Good morning, Jen. It's lovely to see you. There we go. Now we have some focus here. It's not doing a very good job, and I'll put my foot in the garden because I want you to see this. There. Isn't that beautiful? I just love these roses. There's even a couple of bits of rain on there, and it's making new babies, new sprouts. But here, if the camera will oblige us, which it's just not doing. Come on, sort the focus out. It's gotten confused. I'll just get close. You can see we've got Christmas lilies coming. So that's what's happening. And okay, I'm going to turn the camera around. And I'll turn it back because I want you to see. There you go. It just sometimes needs a bit of a wake-up call. So there's these huge Lilium regale, and they make massive white trumpets. They might, I don't know, because I haven't worked out how long I'm going to be on break yet. It's a great surprise when it comes. And these little shorter ones, which aren't doing quite so well this year. But anyway, the lilies are fabulous. Carameline, it is gorgeous to see you. And we're out here in the wind, but it's not too bad. So I'm inclined to think I'll stay out here. So today's topic is actually about putting yourself first, but it's more than that. I really had to dial in and get to grips with what it was I wanted to talk about, because one of you made a comment about how easy it is and how automatic it is and how used you are to putting other people first and never paying any attention to yourself. And I know I talk a lot about our yes and our no, my yes, my no, living my truth, all that stuff. But every time I started to go in that direction, it was like, no, that's not what we're talking about today. And it took me a little while to kind of nail it and realise that what I wanted to talk about is this whole problem that we have of actually noticing when we do that. Because it's so automatic, it's so programmed, it's just what we do. And how do you stop that, Because it's so reinforced, and it depends upon, maybe it doesn't. I don't know. See, I'm only familiar with my society and my culture, but I think this is probably applicable to most cultures that are based on a Judeo-Christian ethic, and that would include a Catholic ethic as well, which is the idea, which, got to be careful how I say this, the sort of commonly iconic, I use mythical with the word carefully, but the story that we're told about what Christ did on the cross and sacrificing everything to save others. And I'm not even going to go there about that whole thing, right? But the way that it gets into our awareness, because I don't think that's what he had in mind at all. When he did what he did, I don't think that was the idea at all. It gets taught to us that you put others first. And mothers in particular are very good at doing that for an entire lifetime, and then the kids grow up and suddenly it's like, well, shit, now what do I do? I'm feeling resentful and angry and empty, and my life is kind of meaningless because there's nobody to shape myself around, and now what, Now it's better, I think, if we don't do that. And, fathers too. Anybody who's responsible for anyone or anything can end up making themselves and their life about that instead of about, hang on a minute, what's really good for me here? Because we don't get taught that it's actually kind of sacred and good and appropriate to fill your own cup first. We get taught that in an emergency situation you should put the oxygen mask on first, but otherwise we're kind of supposed to walk around being sacrificial martyrs. And I used to feel that too without even realising it. It was just normal. And it took me so long to start to realise that it isn't normal. It's not normal. I mean, it may be normal, it may be accepted, it may be just what you do, but it's not, dare I say it, really very healthy. Because it means, I was always just giving from empty and thinking that was normal and how my life should be. No. But to get to that place, makes it sound like I sort of arrived and had a great awakening one day. It wasn't like that. It was just, hang on a minute. And actually, I remember the first time somebody asked me that question. I was 21, having possibly my first session with a therapist that my sister paid for me to see. Long story. And she asked me, what did I want in a particular situation? And every single answer that I gave her was framed in terms of somebody else. I did not know how to think about it in terms of what I wanted. I just had no idea. Couldn't do it. I mean, I learned. Felt very, unfamiliar and wrong. And, so I started, that was a while ago now, I started to have some thought. But what I've graduated to now is a very close connection with myself, my soul, if you want to say, whatever words you use, that allows me from moment to moment to just know a lot of the time immediately what's right for me. And when I don't know, to at least stop and question it instead of just throwing in a program, as Joe Dispenza would say, going into automatic, going unconscious, and doing what I think I'm expected to do or doing what everybody expects me to do. It's very, very easy to do that. It's so automatic, especially at this time of the year. I mean, what are you expected to do at this time of the year if you're in a Judeo-Christian culture? You are expected to go and be with family and have a lovely Christmas. And the questions that people ask you, what have you got planned and what are you going to do? And then afterwards, well, what did you do and how was it? And the assumption is that you're just going to follow that pattern. But many people don't now, and many people don't want to, for their own whatever reasons. I'm not about saying that it's good or bad, that everybody is feeling a little bit more free to do something different if they want to. But the point is that people are now choosing a lot more instead of just thinking, oh, well, this is how it is, without stopping to think, hang on a minute, how do I want it to be? What's real and what's true for me? And the thing about doing that is that when you start to choose yourself, sometimes it's really small things. Sometimes it's really big things, it's really big choices, and of course when you choose yourself, you have to say no sometimes. You don't have to say a really big no sometimes, and it can be life-changing, and most of the time I do not encourage people to make that kind of choice quickly. You do it with consideration, and you think about the most loving and elevated and appropriate way that you can say no to others and say yes to yourself if that's what you need to do. Sometimes you can't avoid ruffling feathers. It's like, oh, screw it, I have to choose myself. Let the chips fall where they may. So it's one of those things where there's quite a deep decision, quite a deep thinking process and feeling and creating, and what's the best way that I can create this for myself, which incidentally is also the best way to create it for others. That whole conversation has to go on inside you, and it can be really quite deep, and you don't know the answer straight away. And my encouragement to most people in that situation is just sit with it. Don't do anything reactive. Don't chuck in an automatic program and just say, oh, well, this is what I did before, this is what everybody else does, so I'll just do this because it's uncomfortable sitting here not knowing what I'm going to do. Stay with the unknown. When you're somewhere that you don't know, you can't predict the outcome, you don't know what's best for you, stay with it. Do you have to leap off and go one way or the other into polarity instead of actually feeling into what's true for you? Why not take a risk and stay in the unknown for a bit and just, figure it out? And when I say figure it out, I don't mean I mean just relax with it. Go mow the lawns and see what flies into your mind when you stop thinking about it, that kind of thing. And I wanted to talk about how you know when this is happening. And what I mean is how you know when you are somehow out of integrity with what's true for you, or at least you're not clear about what's true for you. And it's remarkably simple. It doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel good. And, you're at work last week. Some of you will relate to this, I'm sure. And you're talking with colleagues about what you're going to do in the Christmas break. And, by now the plans are made and you're sort of, you're saying what's going on. And there's some of them that you're really looking forward to. And some of them is just, I've got to get that done. I've got to get that out of the way, whatever it is. And you just sort of ignore the fact that it isn't something you've really agreed to inside yourself. That's the little thing to pay attention to. That's the sort of quiet disquiet that says, you're not really wanting to do this. And it doesn't mean, noticing that does not mean you have to get all polarized and reactive and say, screw this, I'm not doing it tomorrow. No, it's not about that. I had a really interesting and productive conversation with one of our people in the Heartfield about this a couple of weeks ago. There's something they just had to get done. And they knew that it was a complete waste of time and they didn't want to do it. But they understood precisely why they were doing it and what for. They also knew what choices they were going to make in the future to make sure that this wouldn't happen again. And they were in complete alignment with doing this thing that for themselves meant nothing and didn't need to be done, but they just got on and did it because it was for the greater benefit of everybody, which included themselves. So it's not about always saying, piss off, I'm not doing what you want me to, blah, blah, blah. It's about actually working out what your truth is as an evolved, elevated being, the best way that you can show up in any one moment. That's what this question's about. And remember, she says, thinking I better check the clock, when you show up as the best version of yourself, that is the greatest gift that you can give first to yourself and then to everybody else. Because if you're choosing yourself and you're filling your own cup by honouring yourself, respecting yourself and loving and caring and giving to yourself, well, then you do have more love to give to others. And when you choose to go and do and be whatever it is that you choose to go and do and be, well, then you do it with more heart. You do it with all your heart because you've chosen to be there instead of, I'm going to do this, I've got to endure this, I've got to get this out of the way. Why not genuinely choose to be with people when you genuinely choose to be with them? Maura, it's great to see you. Instead of just doing what you're obliged to do or feel obliged to do, but really you don't want to be there. I know for some people that takes enormous courage because the family pressures it's just assumed, they'll be there and they'll do this, they'll do the same thing they did last year. Well, excuse me, I don't actually want to do that this year. But it takes courage to do that, especially at this time, because it's only a few days away. This isn't an invitation to put a stick in a hornet's nest and stir it up. It's an invitation to really consider and observe and watch. And in family situations, actually, and you've got a great opportunity coming up if you're gathering with family in the next few days, it is wonderful, with this in mind, to just watch yourself and think, hang on a minute. How am I reacting and responding? What's that person saying to me that I agree with? And what's that person saying to me or imposing upon me that I don't agree with? What's the deal here? Hang on a minute. Am I just completely getting this inside out, upside down, ass about face? Because I've just assumed that I like being with my family or I don't like being with my family. Just take off the normal sunglasses or, rose-tinted or orange-tinted or black-tinted or green-tinted or blue-tinted glasses that you normally wear and just walk into those family interactions with a kind of a blank slate and think, what of this situation, what do I like and what do I not like? What's aligned for me, what isn't? What do I accept, what do I not accept? Be the observer in the laboratory of your family experience for the next few days. It can be very enlightening if you think about it that way. And you can go away and think, well, that part was nice and this part had me wanting to climb up the walls and run out the door. And you can think about what it was that was happening in that interaction that got under your skin so much. And whatever it was, if it did, don't assume that it's the words and the interaction that you've had for however long. I mean, it might be, but frequently whatever it is we're knee-jerking to, and we've knee-jerked to over so many years, is not what it appears to be. And don't get caught up in, she said this and I said that and he said that and this. Forget it. Just be curious about the emotions, what the emotions are. Oh, I'm so glad, Maura. Just become the observer, right? Because, oh God, there's so much that is wired and fired in our brains from our families because, hell, we grew up with them, right? In the first 7 years, you have no analytical filter and everything goes straight in. You just think it's normal. And now as an adult, you're going back into all that stuff that you assumed was normal, except you have adult perception now. But all that stuff's subconscious and you're not aware. So when it starts to go inside you, just notice the emotions that come up in you and realise that they're your emotions and you actually have the ability to change them. Don't expect yourself to do that on the spot, right? Some of this stuff can be so strong and so overwhelming. But, have a little... Here's a way to freak your family out. Have a little notepad and just make notes when you notice. I noticed this. I noticed this feeling. I noticed this feeling. I noticed I like that. Don't write anything about what happened, just what feelings came up for you. And then, now you have a little to-do list of things to explore, to overcome, to decide, well, if I normally feel that, how do I want to feel? And if I want to feel that way, and if I'm living and believing, being and breathing and smelling and tasting and acting and hearing and speaking that person, what choices does it mean that I'm going to make differently? How am I going to think and feel and choose and act as that person who's choosing not to feel that way anymore? And not to endorse behaviours and, go back into situations and all that where that continues to happen. That's the opportunity here. It can be very, very challenging. But like I say, you can freak your family out. If you have a little notepad and just write down, I'm feeling this. It's your feeling. And it has nothing to do with them. It's just that, they can be very strong and persistent triggers. And they're unconscious, they don't know they're doing it. This is your opportunity to get conscious so you can create change. I had no idea I was going to talk about that today. Not like that, but that's frequently the way it works. Thank you so much for strolling around in my windy garden with me today. I am grateful that I get to share with you. I will be back tomorrow. Tomorrow, my God, it's the 24th tomorrow. So that will be my last broadcast for a little while. There will be replays, and you can trust that they will have put their hand up and said, pick me. I don't even know, like I said, I don't know how long I'm going to be offline for. It's usually 3 weeks, it may be 4. I just haven't a clue. But I'll have to work it out, and I may have it worked out by tomorrow, because when I set up the lives, it's like, replay 1 of blah. So I'll let you know. It's probably going to be 3 weeks. Right now, standing here, I feel that is better than 4. So I'll let you know. So I'll see you tomorrow. Big love. Until then. Bye-bye.